Hey, Mark, I just wanted to let you know that you're currently muted. Nobody's able to hear you like yesterday. So with that going on, I just wanted to talk about the playoff committee and what they said during the rankings while you figure out your issues. Um, First off, to everybody in the chat, did you see the committee chairman? He did the 6-7 meme for whatever reason. I mean, this is clearly a highly educated, highly serious committee, just openly doing memes while taking questions. To me, this is a complete joke and a complete nonsense and just unserious when you're trying to have a serious discussion about a topic that people legitimately care about. Complete disrespectful, just nonsense, ridiculous. And then, not only that, he was asked about the. Oh, there you are, Mark. I think I'm able to hear you now.
Okay, it's just unplug and plug back in, I guess, is the problem the last few times. But thanks for letting me know that, because I was certainly not muted. But go ahead. So the meme situation, let me picture this. When was this meme incident going on?
So it was during the ranking shows when they interviewed the committee chairman.
Yeah.
They changed Ole Miss and Oregon, and there's a very popular meme going around about 6-7, those two numbers. So he did the 6-7 meme, and people are constantly on Twitter and stuff are making fun of him because, he's supposed to actually be a serious guy. And when you do something unserious in a serious position, and people have been clowning on you for weeks for giving clownish answers, no wonder people are going to criticize you. So, not only in addition to that, I know it's stupid. I mean, I can't make it up, Mark. I wish I could. Here's another clownish thing he said. Guess what? You know how last week and stuff we said, oh, well, Miami's not being compared to Notre Dame because they're in different comparative pools. Guess what? They're in the same comparative pool this week. It's just Notre Dame is just better than Miami. They're just better, Mark. Notre Dame is just clearly better than Miami. What?
Yeah.
What's Notre Dame done that is just so? What has Notre Dame done that has earned this high-minded attitude that they just can walk on water? That they just are this elite 85 Bears-like team. Listen, if they would have been like 5 ranked teams and they would have barely lost to these two, I would get it. Their best win is against Boise State and Navy, for goodness sakes. Okay.
If anybody out there wants to take up the cause for Notre Dame, I invite you to call the show. I am not going to ridicule you. I'm not going to be condescending. I am just simply going to debate the topic, because I'm trying to run across somebody, because certainly everybody that calls in and everybody that seems to be in the chat that's taken up this issue is taking up the side of Miami. And I'm not talking about Miami fans, because as you could imagine, boy, that was a emotional show we just had on the Miami channel tonight.
As rightfully it should be. They should all be upset.
Pissed off.
They should be. I'm upset for them.
DeReal, these are the few, and I try to play devil's advocate, not to be that way, but to obviously just provide a different perspective and come up with something that could logically take the place of Miami outranking Notre Dame. This is what I came up with, but none of these fit this situation. One would be simply, I would respect any of these people in the committee. And Alec, I apologize, but I was going to take your call, but you had disappeared there. So we had 2 other calls and they disappeared. So DeReal popped back up. Anyway, I would have respect for any of the committee members, and more so just the media types, if they simply said, you know what? I know that Miami won the football game, but I just believe that Notre Dame's a better football team. We've all watched games where we felt as though the better team did not win the game. And I could even sit here and say, you know what? If somebody held a gun to my head and I really had to think about it and go through these 2 teams, I may think that Notre Dame is a better team. But if I was in that committee room, if I was a committee member, if I had power to rank the teams, which of course I do, but just as anybody of the rest of us have the power to do, but not a meaningful ranking. If I had a meaningful ranking, you know what my conclusion might be? Even if I thought Notre Dame was a better team, I have to rank Miami ahead of Notre Dame because I have to honor the result on the field. I have to honor that. So I personally just think Notre Dame, if they played again, would win the game, but I have to honor the result and respect the result of the competition on the field. So that's one thing. Okay. Next point would be, let's say Miami beat Notre Dame, exactly what we saw on August 31st. And then Notre Dame just ran this gauntlet, just this ridiculous gauntlet of wins after that. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Oregon. Throw any decent team in there that you could think of. They had 4 or 5 of these wins. I would still say, you know what? Miami being a power conference team that plays a decent schedule, of course, they can't pick up for a horrible ACC, and they've played the likes of Syracuse and Stanford and those type teams on a fairly regular basis. But they went out and they attempted to schedule difficult games. Florida, South Florida, Notre Dame, and they're 9-2, and Notre Dame's 9-2. So I still think that the right side of the argument is Miami. However, I understand somebody who would say, you know what, Notre Dame's gone out and beaten Oklahoma, and they beat, LSU, and they beat Oregon, and they've got like 4 wins that are just outstanding. I would say I don't agree with you, but I understand that that's a logical argument. But neither one of those things are going on or exist, and I don't get it. Their
Right.
resumes are so similar.
Let me throw another example. What if it was like 2023 Ohio State, Oregon, where Oregon beat Ohio State, but every week after that, Oregon was struggling against like Stanford, UCLA, and they were barely, and Ohio State was just obliterating everybody. They were beating by like 40, 50 points.
Yeah.
Then I would get it. But neither of these things are happening. And also, I didn't realize losing to the number 121 team in the country is now a bad loss, Mark, because everybody's been legitimately, I haven't heard a single person. They always just go to this market. Miami's got 2 bad losses. Really? Beating the number 21, losing to the number 21 team in the country is now a bad loss? How does that make sense? Especially when people say Notre Dame's best win is to the number 22 team in the country. That's their second best win. So how does that make any sense? You lose to the number 121 team. That's a bad loss. But you beat the number 22 team in the country, and that's a good win. What? What? Miami's going to get completely screwed out over this. Honestly, Heather Dinich said, I went back and rewatched it after our call. She said there's no magical place where Miami can rank where they would flip Miami and Notre Dame to where they would rank. So Miami will legitimately be number 10 in the country. Notre Dame will be 9, and they will not swap those two, Mark. They will not swap them. They will be behind one another.
Wow.
Miami, yeah. So and then again, this is going to chaos scenario. If Michigan beats Ohio State, there's a legit chance Miami might be out of the college football playoff and Notre Dame's in it. It would be Miami 11, Michigan 10, Notre Dame 9. Wow. Why? Honestly, if you're a Miami fan or you're any team in the country, why would you go schedule Notre Dame after this? Because Notre Dame, all they have to do is play 8 schools that are trash, and they're perceived better than you. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, unfortunately for Miami, they've got no control over that because they play in the ACC, and the ACC lines up those games.
So I understand that, but if you're
that rotation of games,
okay.
The Michigan thing, I'm not following you. I'm following you from the standpoint of a schedule comparison, but
okay. So Miami right now, if Alabama and BYU move, the number 10 seed will be the final at-large spot, right?
Sure.
Miami would currently vault to number 10.
Sure.
I would assume they would vault to 9 because I'm an idiot and I assumed head-to-head would matter. Apparently that doesn't matter. They're just the results on the field, and that's the reason we play it, but forget it. So Miami's 10. Let's say Michigan goes out, beats Ohio State.
Yes.
Miami would be removed for Michigan, and Notre Dame would make the playoffs at 9.
Okay, so I'm not saying I agree with that, but there's no logical contradiction there in just arbitrarily saying Michigan's win is just so outrageously good that we can vault them that high.
No, the logical arbitration is, why is Notre Dame not even being factored into the final at-large spot by Miami is? When Miami and Notre Dame played a game. They played.
Yeah.
They played. And this idea of Notre Dame is just, they also said, well, we're not comparing Notre Dame and Miami head-to-head. We're comparing them to Alabama, BYU, and Miami. Notre Dame, I would argue, might have the worst resume of the four. How do they have a better resume than Alabama? Like, what in the world are we talking about? Now, I get it. The Florida State loss is by far the worst loss out of any team that is currently in the top 25. Maybe even in the top 35, to be honest with you, or 40, or however far you want to go. But Mark, don't you think being the number 4 team in the country would greatly offset that loss? And then you have wins over number 14 and 19, which is better than number wins 17 and 22. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, this is just an eye test committee, and this is the problem with eye test, is it is completely subjective and not backed by any merit. I'm sorry, but first off, another point is, why is this week Miami all of a sudden being compared in the same comparative pool as Notre Dame? Why did beating Virginia Tech by 17 points magically put them in a completely different classification of teams? What in the world is that about? Nothing really happened from last week to this week, other than Utah somewhat struggled against Kansas State. I mean, what are we doing here?
You know what's most likely going to happen this Saturday as well is that Notre Dame just blasted Pitt. Miami could do the same. They certainly are capable of doing the same to Pitt. But if you really look into that game, that was 37-15. Notre Dame just annihilated them. It was not 37-15. It was like 300 yards of total offense at one point in the game to 30. Like, they just crushed them. And that is going to give, most likely, Miami's going to win the game. They're going to win by 10 points. They're going to be clearly the better team, but not in a resounding way. And that's going to give the committee more ammunition to say, we have a comparison point of recent games against Pitt, and look at what Notre Dame did and look at what Miami did.
Yeah. I guess, Mark, if you're going forward, honestly, if you're the SEC or any of these other, why schedule out of conference games? Why schedule them? Because it happens in week 1, 2, and 3. The committee is openly saying, hey, you can beat this team. Be directly compared to this team. And it doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, why play the game? Seriously, why play the game?
Yeah. I certainly don't think necessarily that Texas has had the kind of season that warrants a playoff bid. But let's understand, if they would have played anybody else in the world besides Ohio State and won the game, they would be playing for a playoff spot, a clear playoff spot this weekend. They may still be in some fashion, probably not.
Right. I think that I'm hoping that Florida loss is what's doing them in, and not the 7-point loss to Ohio State, because that 7-point loss to Ohio State's better than what, 95 to 98% of the wins out there in the country.
Yeah, they actually should be to their credit.
Yeah, they're the only team in the country that's played within the same zip code of Ohio State, and it was at Ohio State. The only team within this decade that's played that close to Ohio State in Ohio State is Michigan and Oregon. That's the only 2 teams I can think of who've even come close as to Texas was. And we're punishing them greatly. I know Joe Klatt was railing about the Michigan similar thing. If they played South Carolina State instead of Oklahoma, they would potentially be much higher in the rankings. And this is why I was telling everybody, this whole you are what your record says you are mentality has got to go away. We are not playing a sport where record should be the be all end all. It should be a clear data point in what we use but it shouldn't be a massive factor because you could be 7-5 and be better than some 9-3 teams. You could be Penn State, who's 5-6, and they're probably better than some 9-3, 8-4 teams. Like Penn State played Cal this weekend. The Penn State, you should value that win more than Cal. You may not like it, but that's the way the sport should be going. That's the direction we should be going. But we're doing this weird thing where we're treating it like the NFL, where all these teams are equal, and it's just that's not the way we're doing. That can't be the way we're doing it.
Yeah, and the only thing I want to clarify, and you can certainly disagree with me if this is not your intent, I think when you say some of the things that you're saying, that gets misconstrued by a lot of people as being like a brand name qualifier. Like, no, if the brand names are backed up by significant wins in the season, such as the SEC going out winning their non-conference games, then we can start to evaluate these teams and not throw the record out, but say that playing within a touchdown of Ohio State and Columbus is a more credible performance than beating Duke by a touchdown. It just is, even though it's a loss versus the other one being a win. And it's not about name brands. It shouldn't be. We should be able to do our best to try to put those blinders on. And I know it's difficult, but if Virginia was doing this, if Virginia would have went to Columbus and played within a touchdown of Ohio State, then same credit should go to them.
Correct. And Hall of Fame, Trey, congrats on defeating that straw man, because I didn't say anything like that at all. I'll go to the most extreme example I can think of that's somewhat arguable. Florida plays Virginia this week, Mark. They're about the same level of team to me. Florida and Virginia.
I tell you, I mentioned Florida to somebody this week off air. I forget what we were talking about. And I said, Florida can be used almost like no other team in the country to show, okay, Florida sucks. Why are you losing to or playing close against Florida? Or really, if you really look at Florida, when those boys have put it together, they can 1 week lose to Kentucky by 4 scores, and the next week go to Ole Miss and take them to the wire, or beat Texas. They're all over the place, and it doesn't seem to have anything to do. It doesn't with incentive of winning because they've been out of it forever. But if they pull it together that particular week, they're a very talented team that's capable of playing with almost anybody in the country, not beating anyone in the country, but playing with anybody in the country. But then they could just look atrocious. They're all over the place.
Absolutely, which is why I argued all offseason last year, and I'll continue in arguing this offseason. We need like quad metrics, margin of victory metrics, formulaic input into this thing instead of like we need to go beyond even strength of record, strength of schedule, and all that stuff. Game control is a good starting point, but we need to go into like percentages of like expected victory, and that needs to be calculated into it, because I heard Alabama had a 96% chance to beat Oklahoma. If they played that exact same game 100 times, Alabama would have won that game based on the stats 96% of the time. Okay, listen, that needs to be factored in. That just does need to be factored into the results, because not every score and not every game is played the exact same way. And you can come and arrive at the same box score a completely different way. So until we operate with something like that, we're going to have these people that are constantly saying, well, why doesn't 3-8 Arizona? Why aren't they in the discussion? Or why isn't a 11-1 BYU even have a chance in at large? I'll tell you why. Because everybody's upset about it, because they're not that good, Mark. Their best win is against a Utah team who's number 13 in the country. Mark, they struggled against Colorado in the beginning of the season. They beat Colorado by 3 points, 24-21.
Yeah.
That's a loss. That's a worse result than most of these losses out here in the country. But people can't get past it. They just see, oh, they're 10-1 currently. Alabama's 9-2. Notre Dame's 9-2. Therefore, BYU needs to be ranked ahead of them. No, that's not the way it's going. Now, if you want that to change, you know what you do, Mark? You win your non-conference games, and then people will respect you. But because Mississippi State beats Arizona State, because Cal beats Minnesota and stuff like that, you all are perceived weak. Well, you're not perceived. You are weaker than other conferences. That's how it was. You remember last year when the Big Ten got tons of respect because they won the non-conference games, because they won the bowl games and the playoffs games? That's what they have to do. It's not, until teams prove it on the field, then they shouldn't automatically be given the respect because they got a nice record.
I'm with you. All right, Jarrell, anything else?
No, I just wanted to say that about the committee because I thought that was so ridiculous. How are the Miami fans doing? Since you were more in touch, I'm being serious because,
yeah. So, folks, if you want to see one of our very best here at the Voice of College Football, he has been doing a show with me longer than anybody by far. Cam Underwood from State of the U. He runs the State of the U site on SB Nation. Very capable, competent guy, and he just lost his composure, and rightfully so, and was just fired up and just sick of it and just tired of it, and really, we tried to work through it logically and think, okay, what kind of thread can Miami try to needle their way through to get to the playoff? And then he would just give up and say, you know what, they haven't presented to us a logical process, so why are we trying to confront their illogic with logical ways of getting Miami to the playoff? And the Miami fan base is pissed off, which leads to a lot of invalid comments and statements about the past and other things. But I get that out of emotion that I try to buffer it, and I don't, as you well know, I don't like a lot of illogic, and I don't like, of course, if there are facts in quotes that aren't facts because they're not the truth, they're not reality, they're not statistics, they're wrong, that are bantied about in the chat. I correct those, but under the circumstances, I do it in a more light and sensitive way because I understand that they're upset.
Right. Well, I was told that the reason we were expanding to 12 is that everyone gets to control their destiny and everyone's got a clear path. And while I do agree to that, a large set of circumstances, isn't it kind of crazy that clearly the best team in the ACC, according to the committee, has almost no shot to make the college football playoff? Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, it is. It is. But this is what they set up on the initial weekend when they showed us their first rankings. It would be fascinating, like I have said many times, if I could be a fly on the wall, a few different places in sports, it would be in the war room of any NFL team during the draft. It would be on the Zoom call or in person when a major brand, a major program is interviewing college football candidates for a vacancy. And then it would also now be this. Would love to hear the debate going on in that room, because the results are telling us that there's a lot of just lunacy going on. So it'd be interesting to see where that originates, because that there are some level heads in the room, but they're obviously not winning the battle.
Right. I know this is kind of silly because, again, I agree with what your Miami guy said. Let's say Miami wins the ACC championship or SMU. Is that enough to push Miami ahead of Notre Dame? Because SMU at that point would be ranked, 15, 16, 14 in the country?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, and then Miami would be 10 and Notre Dame would be 9. How would at that point you lose to the ACC champion? And it was a close game, correct? It wasn't a complete blowout. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't a bad loss. I mean, they lost to Louisville, who's going to finish probably 8-4. by 3 points with 4 turnovers, and they lost to the ACC champion most likely in overtime.
Yeah.
Where's this horrendous loss that I keep hearing about, Mark? Where's it? Where is it? Does it exist? Because I have yet to find it. So I don't get it. Expanding to 12 seems to have caused more problems than solutions.
All right, DeReal.
Anyway, you have a good one. You have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of your show. I look forward to next week when Texas beats Texas A&M by 21 points.
There you heard it. Okay, again, these configurations on this layout are driving me crazy. But we march on. None of you care about that. I do, though. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, everyone. Leave those comments and questions. Of course, the most important thing we will state tonight is that the Amazon links in the description section of this video and all the videos when you shop on Amazon. And please use the link that we provide. It's the same shopping experience for you. At the conclusion of this college football season, we're going to be doing a very interesting show. Every year we do the state of the Voice of College Football. It's going to be a variation of that. It's going to be a very interesting show that we're going to do at the conclusion of the college football season. That said, let's dive back into it. I'm losing my train of thought because there were about 3 or 4 things during the course of that conversation I was going to end with when I got to reel off the line, but they have all since left me. But I'm sure they will come back at some point. I'll let you know on Thursday night, meaning Thanksgiving. Hopefully all of you enjoy the holiday that I'm sure I'll be here sometime late night. Thanksgiving's not some kind of like all day into the night, late night celebration for me. I'll eat turkey, hang out with friends, have a nice time, a lot of pie, a lot of football. And then sometime tomorrow night, I don't know exactly what time that's going to be, we will hook up with all of you on Thanksgiving night. All right. Got Alec Keyser stopping by from our Indiana channel. And again, Alec, I apologize because we started the show and you had been waiting down there. And then when I was going to click you on, you disappeared.
Well, I was hearing the audio issues and I wasn't sure if that was, from my end or from your end or whatnot. So I went to refresh the stream. And by the time I got back in, the reel was rolling. I'm not even sure how to follow that up.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there because, again, it wasn't just you. It was somebody else did the same thing. So anyway, so speaking of the network, before we get to Alec here, I want everyone to realize that so Alec co-hosts our Indiana show on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So some of you may be aware of some of the shenanigans that go on with YouTube. And when I say shenanigans, I am not ripping on YouTube here. They run a zillion-dollar business with some crazy amount of channels. It was funny. I was having a conversation the other day. I am going to talk shop for about 30 seconds. I was talking, YouTube analytics and all this stuff with somebody the other day, and we were looking at statistics. And, my tiny little dinky little show and channel here, which it is in the scope of YouTube, because there are, I forget what the number is. There are like almost 7,000 YouTube channels that have over 1 million subscribers. Like 7,000 that have over 1 million subscribers. I don't have 100,000, don't have 50,000. But it also goes so far off the cliff that if you're aware of a site called Social Blade, that I still have I'm still in the top half of 1% of size of YouTube channels because most of them are sitting out there with 18 subs. So there's a lot going on with YouTube, folks, that goes on that we can't control. And one would be something happened with about 10 of our channels where apparently something got messed up with the analytics, the algorithms, the traffic, and how that gets sent out to the potential users. And on our Indiana channel, Alec and Bradley started the show. We already had a show going, but they really ramped it up and got it revved up and going, and it was off to a good start. And they had brought in a ton of subscribers, got us past 500 subscribers very quickly, and then something happened. I've seen this a number of times where it's obvious that it's not like suddenly 1,000 people don't like them anymore, where they were getting, not a crazy amount of views, but 500-600 views for videos and live streams. And then all of a sudden it's like 50. So something obviously
points it ended up even being less than that, but we're starting to bounce back nicely in the last couple of weeks, which has been pretty exciting.
So I say all that, understanding that not all of you love Indiana football. So I am definitely not asking you, as I have in the past, because I've learned better, do not go over to the Indiana channel and subscribe just to subscribe to help us. We appreciate that, but it actually doesn't help to have like dead subscribers. So please don't do that. But what I am asking you to do is go over to the Indiana channel and check out Alec and Bradley, especially since we're coming down the stretch. Obviously, there's a Purdue game, there's the Big Ten championship game, there's a lot in front of Indiana football, so it's relevant here to the national scene. So go over to the Indiana channel, check out what's posted now, and then Tuesday 8 p.m. Eastern time is when Alec and Bradley get together again. Everyone, listen to me. Tuesday 8 p.m. Eastern time. Please check out the Indiana show. Show up, leave comments, ask questions, engage in the content, and of course, the Indiana and Curt Cignetti story is one of the most riveting in college football. So check out Alec and Bradley Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I can't say it enough. All right, Alec, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, like you said, it's bucket week, rivalry week. Obviously, the rivalry that's on the front of everybody's mind is Indiana Purdue in a massive matchup this weekend. No, actually, I didn't.
Of course,
it's fun. It is funny seeing all the people be like, "Oh, look at who Indiana's playing this weekend. It's 2-9 Purdue," and like, I want to like first defend Indiana, but it's so much funnier to just dunk on Purdue that I end up just like joining in on it with them. So it's been fun, but I don't really want to talk about the bucket game. I think that if Indiana doesn't slaughter them, we have real problems. And if all things go well, it should be a really exciting show on Tuesday night, previewing another matchup with Ohio State. So that should be pretty exciting, but a lot of things need to happen. A lot of things need to go right before then. But I kind of wanted to dispel a narrative. There seems to be, and I mean, I know why. It's because sites like 24/7 and On3 and ESPN and all these recruiting sites have their rankings, and for whatever reason, those don't get adjusted when the kid goes to college. They just kind of like take it as is. It doesn't take development into account. It doesn't take maybe that they missed into account. And so there's this narrative that Indiana doesn't have any talent on their roster and they're just blade sawing the entire Big Ten besides Ohio State, right? And that's just not the case. And while their blue chip ratio is low and they, according to 24/7, were outside the top 50 in terms of roster talent going into the season, my argument would be that maybe, just maybe, the sites for very specific evaluations of specific players that all happen to be on Indiana's roster got it wrong. The collection of talent that this staff was able to bring together is actually better than what their ranking said. And while, yes, it is high-level coaching, it's high-level development, to say that it's only coaching, to say that it's only development, and to say that they're essentially they've raised the level of these players so much that it's like they're playing at this superhuman level is like it's a silly notion to me at a certain point. And we kind of had a little bit of this back and forth on Twitter, but at a certain point, like, yeah, you need coaching and you need scheme, but the players have to be good enough. And like this Indiana football team, this 2025 Indiana Hoosier team is definitely good enough.
So when you say we, are you talking about you and I had a back and forth on?
Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah, okay. So you'll have to refresh my memory because I left that conversation thinking, I hope that I was clear and maybe I wasn't. And if I wasn't, I apologize. So if you could refresh my memory on what the original post. So this is my issue, folks, because I responded to Alex's post. So it's on me to be accurate with what I stated. So you originally posted what?
It was a response. It was essentially saying that Curt Cignetti and staff are better recruiters or better talent evaluators than 24/7 is, because of the fact that going into the season, and your response was something along the lines of like, if you look at history, the NFL draft and who ends up who ends up being good is backed up in large part by those rankings.
Yes.
And then my point was, I'm not talking about over the macro. I'm talking about in these micro senses with these individual recruits that they got it wrong. And you're seeing what happens on a level where you combine a lot of those like under heralded guys. Like there's a lot of talent on this football team. Like Fernando Mendoza is going to be the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft. He's the clear leader for the Heisman right now. If that kid was on Georgia instead of Indiana right now, like there would be no doubt he would be QB1. But it's not, I'm not saying he's going to be the first pick in the NFL draft. Like you just Google NFL mock draft. He's not farther than 16. And the person who put him at 16 clearly hasn't watched Indiana play. Like you look at Surratt and Cooper, they were Blitnikoff semifinalists. And now, like, listen, they announced the finalists. Neither of those guys were finalists, but those two guys are in the conversation for best receiver in the country. Like they have a Joe Moore semifinalist offensive line. Carter Smith is one of the best left tackles in the country. He was an Outland Trophy semifinalist. They have 3 All-Americans returning on defense. Stephen Daly, before their bye week last week, led the Big Ten Conference in tackles for loss. He was playing 37 snaps a game. That's a kid who in high school was 230 pounds, placed second or third in the Georgia State 200 for track. Like there are freaks on this team, and just because they weren't recognized during the high school recruiting process doesn't mean they haven't amassed a large amount of talent. And if you watch them play against teams like Penn State, against Iowa, against Oregon on the road, and then you watch the way they played against Michigan at home last year, completely different level of physicality on both lines.
Yeah, so I was searching for the post. I can't find it. Anyway, there's a complexity, obviously, to these team total talent rankings, these composite rankings that didn't exist 5 years ago because of the transfer portal. So obviously there was an issue with it before because you can't predict the future perfectly. So, but it was directly looking at, high school football recruiting rankings, and that spit out your talent ranking. But now it's pretty complex with all the transfers going to these particular teams. I would love to have somebody from 247 in their recruiting department come on, because I've got certain questions for them in terms of trying to, give me one of Indiana's best transfer portal players that came from a group of 5 team.
Well, I don't even know if it's so like I would say all of those James Madison guys. You look at Aiden Fisher was a 2-star. Elijah Surratt was playing at I think Division II. Tyreek Tucker was a James Madison commit. Mario Landino was a James Madison commit. Elijah Hardy didn't even have stars. Like he's a starting linebacker in the Big Ten right now.
Well, if you look at any transfer portal player in the 247 rankings, they do have 2 different rankings for them. They have their original high school recruiting rating and ranking in the class. Then they have a transfer portal. Now, if some kid runs for 1,500 yards at Georgia Southern, then he gets elevated and gets picked up by Florida State, then you can say, well, this is a 1,500-yard back. He may not be able to do that in the ACC, but he's pretty good, and we're going to rank him. I don't know where you're going to rank him, but it's pretty easy to know you're going to elevate him a ton over his high school, like his 2-star coming out of high school. But that's a outlier of an example. Many of these guys are guards coming from James Madison, and they obviously have very little idea of how good that player is.
One of the things I like to think about, one of the things that I like to think about a lot is how good that James Madison team would have been last year, because there were 13 guys that transferred in from that team that all made an impact either last year or this year for Indiana, that all would have been on those James Madison teams. That would have been insane in today's, like they absolutely would have pushed to be a playoff team. But I mean, look at like D'Angelo Pons is the number 1 graded corner in the Big Ten right now. Like Lewis Moore is another one of those transfers. He was a 3-star transfer. You bring him, put him into Indiana's system, and it's like look at where you're getting your talent evaluation though. Like on 3 or 24/7 is going to call him a 3-star. But if you look at somebody who's film based, like my guy's Buffton Prime. If people know Buffton Prime, one of my favorite followers on Twitter, like super entertaining. But the guy's everything's based on film, and that dude just watches film and breaks things down. And a lot of the guys that he falls in love with, and for whatever reason, whether it's like the tendencies he's seeing on film or the plays they're making, or those guys are ending up at Indiana. So that's why it gives me confidence in saying that, like, there's production that backs up the way we perceive these guys coming in. And then it's like, you look at the way they're performing on the field. Like, Oregon is an unbelievably talented team with great athletes. I watched that football game. Mark, did you watch that football game? Like, Indiana was not outclassed. They were not outmatched. They didn't look slow. Like, they were the better football team that day. And I'm here making the argument that maybe, just maybe, there's some talent on this Indiana team, and they're not just all like plumbers that have good coaching.
Absolutely. And, Oregon was, of course, about a touchdown to 8-point favorite in that game. But if you watch the game, Indiana it wasn't simply that they looked like they belonged in the game. They looked like the better team. I don't know if that would be every time that they played, but they were clearly the better team on that day.
I would agree. We're looking at Jaden Williams here, Massillon, Ohio linebacker, right in Ohio State's backyard.
So Alec is a good follow on X as well. So check him out right there. We've got an Indiana Voice of College Football X page. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on?
No, that was really it. I had some, I mean, I know the Miami show was live today, and I definitely do want to catch that because of, all the things that's been happening. I do kind of want to get your opinion on where you think this ACC or Notre Dame partnership ends up going, because I thought DeReal was making some really good points of, like, why would you schedule them? I thought it was really interesting. Michigan was able to jump all the way up to 15, especially jumping SC, considering they lost out there earlier this year. And then Lane Kiffin coaching 3 different teams at once is like my favorite storyline right now. And so, honestly, if your choice of like which one you want to address there, but that's kind of where my head was at.
Well,
but that's all I had for Indiana.
Yeah, in terms of the rankings, it was a pretty non-eventful rankings release, and that's pretty much what I predicted. And anyone who watched football over the weekend, because there were really only 2 meaningful games, and that was Oregon beat USC and Pitt beat Georgia Tech, that would really shake anything up. I was curious about whether Oregon would be moved up 1 spot above Ole Miss in the rankings, so I somewhat predicted that. Do I think it's justified? I think it's reasonable. I think it's okay. I haven't recently looked at Ole Miss's and lined up their wins versus Oregon's wins or anything like that. I think they both are fairly weak after 1 or 2 wins, but you could say that about most teams. The pivotal spot is obviously from past Oklahoma down: Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU, Miami, all those teams. That's where the real decisions have to be made. I do believe that Miami's being shortchanged. I've got them ranked higher. I don't have my rankings right in front of me, but I've got them a couple spots higher than the committee. I do think that even though it really doesn't matter because USC is not making the playoff, I still have USC ranked ahead of Michigan in my rankings because I'm not penalizing a team for going to Autzen Stadium and losing by 2 scores when Michigan was playing Maryland. Anytime 2 teams play, they have the same record, I'm always going to go to the greatest length to rank the team that won the game ahead of the other team if they have the same record. I understand
it seems like it makes logical sense.
I understand now that Michigan is a better record. Even we get to a point, though, in the season, Alec, where Virginia beat Louisville, Louisville beat Miami. So you had that, and Miami beat Notre Dame. So you had that clump of teams. And then you had, of course, USC beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame beat USC. So if you lined up all the ACC teams, you had to have Notre Dame below all of them.
Which is crazy.
You have USC after Notre Dame and Michigan after Notre Dame after Michigan after USC. So I got to a point where I had to blow that up, even though you can honor it didn't make any sense based on the complete resume to rank USC like 5-6 spots behind Virginia just because of a succession of wins So I had to break it up at some point and say, you know what? I'm not compromising the integrity of evaluating resumes just to keep teams lined up, because Michigan or Virginia and USC have nothing to do with one another other than USC, I believe, is a better team, especially a couple of weeks ago. But my point was going to be that I don't have to hold to that because of USC now having one more loss than Michigan. But I still believe that they played the type of game at Oregon that I would expect the 15th or 16th best team in the country to play against the 5th or 6th best team in the country. It was a 28-21 game in the fourth quarter. They lost by 2 scores. Like, I don't credit USC for hanging in the game, but I don't discredit them. I think it's pretty much what they should do. And I'm not going to elevate Michigan because they beat Maryland and they still got trounced by USC head to head.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I do think it's funny that, like, as much as like I want to be the one like piling on Notre Dame, and it's tricky. I don't envy anybody in this situation because, like, if you look at the last 5-6 weeks, and I know like schedule means a lot and all this stuff. Like I defended a not great Indiana schedule last year, so it'd be weird for me to sit here and be like Notre Dame hasn't looked like one of the most impressive football teams in the country this year. So it's definitely a tough job, not an envious one. Yeah, it's tough because you just look at the resumes and you say, okay, cool, there's a head-to-head win, but then it's like, what team looks better now? And it's like you could basically talk yourself in circles.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we pile on the committee, and rightfully so most of the time. But just like when I release rankings, or anybody does, there are people who are looking at specifically their team, and they don't like where their team is, and their team's 15, and they think they should be 12, so they go crazy. And before you start criticizing rankings, you have to do the rankings yourself and realize how difficult it is, and be consistent and not contradict yourself and all those things. But the committee has brought most of this on themselves. Certainly.
100%.
We've got Indiana Voice of College Football X page there, folks, so check that out as well. Okay, Alec, anything else, man?
No, that's all I got. I'm excited to watch football. I'm pumped that Indiana plays on a Friday night because then we have 8 days to rest up for the Big Ten championship game. An extra day of rest, extra day of scout, all that good stuff. And then we get to watch people play football on Saturday. So I'm excited.
Is that the Big Ten Network or Fox?
Peacock.
It's on Peacock. Okay. I will not be watching that then. All right.
I don't listen. If it wasn't Indiana, I wouldn't be watching it either. But
yeah, considering it was 66
very, very excited to watch this
year, whatever it was, 66-7. It'll probably be,
nothing.
Purdue will probably be about 20 points better this year and just lose by 45. So
they didn't score last year, Mark. Don't give them that credit.
Okay, I'm mixing up the Notre Dame and Indiana scores. One was 66-0, one was 66-7. It's yeah, Purdue is just a mess. All right, Alec, thanks for being here, man.
I appreciate it.
All right. We've been at this for 52 minutes. We got some calls lined up. Let's get to them. Rob stepping in. Rob, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark. I'm all for criticism of the committee, criticism of rankings. That's all fine and dandy. But we have to stop with misinformation. As DeReal said, Notre Dame's best wins were Boise and Navy, when he knows, in fact, their best wins are USC and Pitt, 2 ranked teams, and they lost by a combined 4 points to 2 really good teams. So let's stop with the lies and the misinformation, please. I'd just like to point that out. Now,
absolutely.
I don't begrudge anyone for being upset with where, if I was a Miami fan, I'd be pissed off. I would be pissed off. And it's not, it's really, I think the biggest problem is, it's not the fact that, the committee has Notre Dame ahead of Miami necessarily, even though, like I said, if life was fair, Notre Dame would be ranked behind Miami. But the problem is the way that the committee has gone about, discussing why they have Notre Dame above Miami, because they have just come up with the worst sounding reasons, when in fact, as the real likes to say, he likes to look at stats, and he's talking about victory point, margin of victory and point differential. I mean, Notre Dame has great stats in all those. They're ranked 7 in the FPI, which is an ESPN thing that people like to bring up, is ESPN playoff predictor and all this kind of stuff. They're number 2 in the Sagarin. They have the 4th best point differential margin in the country, and that's including an awful first 3 weeks of the season where they just were not playing good football. So, there are reasons why the committee has Notre Dame where they're at. I don't necessarily agree with it. Like I said, Miami is getting hosed. They're getting screwed, and I agree with that as a Notre Dame fan. But I'm not going to sit here and let just nonsense and misinformation be spewed out and not defend it. Notre Dame is a good team. They're a playoff caliber worthy team. Do they deserve to be in the playoffs? No, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. They started 0-2. They lost to Miami. If Miami gets left out of the playoffs, they're getting screwed over. That's not fair to them. I hope, and this is my sincere hope for Miami fans, I hope that the cards align for Miami to somehow get into the ACC championship game and just win that conference, because they are the best team in the ACC, in my opinion. And I don't think it's all that close. They just happen to have 2 really bad days. Well, Carson Beck, he's the main reason why they had some pretty bad days. But Miami, in my opinion, is the best team in the ACC, and the fact that they're not even playing in that championship game is crazy. So, and the other thing that I guess could happen is we could see a lot of chaos. If Alabama found a way to lose to Auburn, which is not out of this, that's a very likely thing that could happen, because it's at Jordan Hare, where there's some spooky stuff that goes on there for Alabama in that stadium. I could see LSU somehow finding a way to beat Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's offense isn't very good. So, I mean, that could happen. LSU, or not LSU, Ole Miss could lose to Mississippi State. I mean, there are some serious, Oregon could lose to Washington. I don't really see any of those things happening, to be honest, if I'm being honest. But if any of those things do happen, then Miami might be able to find their way into the playoffs as an at-large.
Well, you just threw out 4 games that to me are roughly in the 70-30. They're obviously not all lined up exactly the same. Like Ole Miss, I think, is more substantial of a favorite than, let's say, Alabama against Auburn. But anyway, they're roughly in the same range. All those games are 6 to 10 point spreads. So they're all in the same range of let's say a 70-30. So I would say the probabilities say that one of them will be an upset. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, certainly all of those things are not going to happen, but I could see 1 or maybe 2 of them happening. And I like Alabama, but I think that might be the most likely of those things to happen, because for some reason Alabama really struggles in that stadium, and this is a better Auburn team than they've lost to in the past there. So that could be a series. Alabama needs to watch out for Auburn, because they could get got. But I don't have any ill will to any playoff team or any team that's in the playoffs right now. I kind of like the playoff picture. I do think Miami's getting screwed. BYU, I don't really care about BYU. They got obliterated by Texas Tech. I mean, obliterated. So, I mean, I think BYU is a good team, but if they go out and they go into that championship game and get obliterated again, which I do think that's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge BYU fan, but really most of the teams that are in the top, 15-ish. I am kind of surprised where they put Michigan, to be honest. I didn't really think Michigan was playing all that well lately. You beat a Maryland team by a decent margin. I guess, that's something, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on the game this year? Do you feel more confident or less confident that Ohio State's finally going to get that ridiculous monkey off their back?
So to get to a few other things that you brought up, one would be that, so you pointing out that Notre Dame's best wins are against USC and Pitt. Absolutely. So if nothing else, say nothing else about my show or my channel in regards to it being entertaining versus boring, or that I'm an idiot versus a genius, or whatever. What we do more than anything else is we try to present facts and reality, and then past that logic. So I missed the comment about USC's best win. So I'm maybe not dialed in 100%.
I'm not blaming you, Mark.
All of you guys say, but I try to in a unless I am sick of somebody in particular, I try to do it in a respectful and kind way. But I even go through the chat sometimes and jump in there and correct people who are just spewing stuff that's not fact, because I can't stand that above anything else. Things that get reported by people, and obviously people are online saying whatever they want, and most of the stuff's incorrect. But I'm talking about even people that, let's say, have some kind of show like I do, or even way beyond in terms of popularity shows, and I hear things and I'm like, that's not even true. That's incorrect. I hate that. So that's one thing we've always stood by, is trying to be correct, trying to lay out facts and reality. Okay, let me say about the ACC, absolutely, about Miami. Miami's the best team in the ACC. Is that factual? No, I'm stating an opinion, but I think from a talent standpoint, from a results standpoint, if you match up their results, obviously what they're capable of doing is beating a team as good as Notre Dame. Can anybody else do that in the ACC? Maybe on a puncher's chance, 1 out of 15 times, but not legitimately. And we've seen that when NC State and Pitt have gone up against them and other teams in the ACC. So I, like you, and like most people, believe that Miami's the best team in the ACC. But this is the byproduct of these leagues being so large that right now Miami's chief competition are 3 teams, and they only played 1, and they lost to them on the road in overtime, SMU. The other 2 competitors for these spots, and I know that Pitt's involved, Georgia Tech's involved, but I'm speaking about Duke and Virginia. Miami didn't even play them to see who the better team was. So that's the byproduct of having these leagues be so large that you're comparing 4 and 5 teams where there should have been 15 games played amongst them, and there was only like 6 or whatever. And then so our evaluation of these teams that determine championship games comes down to these weird tiebreakers of common opponents. And just because you happen to lose to the wrong team, not a really good team or a really bad team, just the wrong team that doesn't get put into a pool of common opponents, then you miss out on the championship game. Those are the kind of quirky things that are going on to determine who should play in a conference championship game that has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of the team. A proper evaluation of the quality of the team. So that's the world we're in because of this realignment and the expansion of these leagues. Ohio State's a better football team than Michigan. I believe that Ohio State is properly ranked. If you're looking at the best team, I think they're the best team. I'm not sure of it, but I'm sure they're one of the 3 or 4 best teams. Michigan's more like the 15th best team in the country. Michigan has not put their foot on anybody's throat that's any good or even bad in the Big Ten up until this Maryland game. So that was kind of their convincing win of the season against a horrible team. They played their best game against Washington. That's Michigan's only performance that is anything of note. And Washington's certainly no great football team. They're the 30th best team in the country. Michigan beat them decisively. Other than that, they've had 2 other teams step on the field with like talent. That's Oklahoma and USC, and they got manhandled by both of them. That said, It's at Michigan, and much like I said a couple different times this week, including the Ohio State show, we all know that us humans cannot affect the weather or change the weather, but they've perfected this or figured it out in the state of Michigan. It must be their we know it's a fine academic institution, their science department or something, because I look and it seems to be this every other year when they play at Michigan, that in the middle of the week, it's a nice fall seasonal time. It's like 55 degrees today in Michigan. By Saturday, it's going to be like 25 degrees and snowing. But that's football, and that's football weather. I don't want that to get misinterpreted. as me making an excuse. It's not an excuse because that's part of football. I'm just simply making an evaluation that Ohio State's faster. They're more talented. They handle the football. They want to throw the football. That's more important. And therefore, weather conditions are going to adversely affect them more than Michigan. That doesn't mean that they need to man up and win the game, regardless of whether there's a hurricane that blows through or whatever it is. I am concerned that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are hobbled because last week against Rutgers, Ohio State put 2 other starting receivers out there. And get this, that wide receiver room has 5 5-stars in the wide receiver room.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches.
They should be able to go to other guys, but even those guys are hobbled that don't even play. Mylan Graham. So they played basically a walk-on, and they played Brandon Ennis, who's a former 5-star. Those guys each had 2 catches, one for 10 yards, one for 23 yards. I watched every play of that game. And, you know, when you're watching on TV, you can't see what's going on downfield in regards to coverages and all of that. But I assume Julian Sand was not throwing the ball downfield because nobody was open, because he has been throwing it great downfield.
Yeah, he's been probably the most consistent, best quarterback in my opinion, besides maybe Fernando Mendoza. I mean, they're very close.
And so without Tate and Jeremiah Smith, now those guys are going to play. Jeremiah Smith for sure. Carnell Tate's kind of a hopeful, probable, I should say. But you get in 25-degree weather and you're injured, that's not a great formula. So I have some concerns there because Ohio State's not going to run the ball down anybody's throat that has a really good defense, and Michigan still does. They don't have a top-end defense like they did last year, but they're still really good.
I mean, USC kind of ran it down Michigan's throat a little bit there. So, I mean, it's possible. Yeah, but I mean, we'll see what happens. I do think
Ohio
this
State doesn't run it down anybody's throat.
That's true. I do think this is the year that Ohio State gets it done, but it would not surprise me if they found a way to lose that game again. I do want to drop like maybe 2 more things before I get off here, Mark. So there was a comment that I just now remembered about the whole Notre Dame Miami, like who would schedule. So people are saying that Miami's not getting any credit for beating Notre Dame, which I find hilariously untrue. If you look at Miami's resume, their resume is built on beating Notre Dame. They don't have a single other ranked win, and you know their losses. They have a loss to an unranked team. I mean, if they hadn't beat Notre Dame, they'd be in the 20s at best, probably. So they're getting credit for beating Notre Dame. But as the committee said, that's not the only thing they're factoring into the equation. Now, I don't necessarily agree that Miami should be behind Notre Dame. Like I said, I've never once been on here saying that I agree that Notre Dame should be ranked ahead of Miami. I'm just saying to say that Miami's not getting any credit for beating Notre Dame is ridiculous. Also, a reason...
If I may respond to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know that I completely agree with that on either side, but I'll make this statement to challenge what you're saying here, Rob. So if Miami was 9-2, and forget the Notre Dame win, they had beaten another drag of the ACC, whoever, Boston College, and they beat them by 31-10. So it's completely dismissed as a win. Miami would be sitting here at 9-2. Virginia right now is 9-2, and they're ranked, 18th, 17th, something in that range?
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that Miami's, most people, observers, consider them better than Virginia. Even outside of just beating Notre Dame, they just think they're we all just evaluate Miami to be, they're a more talented team. That can be proven.
But
NFL players.
But
and all
if we're looking at results, though,
I do think that Miami would be about where Virginia is. I actually think that they would be with a not a bad win, but just a walk in the park kind of win against somebody horrible like Boston College, let's say. I think they'd still be ranked ahead of Virginia. So they'd be 16. I think that they aren't given that much credit for beating Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see them 16 maybe, but
you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, but I kind of disagree with it. I think Miami's getting credit for beating Notre Dame. They're just not getting ultimate credit. And again, I'm not saying Notre Dame should be ahead of Miami. I just think the notion that Miami's not getting any credit at all when they don't have a single other ranked win on their resume. Like we thought at the beginning of the year that Miami was on a roll. They beat USF, they beat Notre Dame, they beat Florida, they beat Florida State. None of those wins are all that good. The only win that they have that's good is Notre Dame.
So yeah, I'll split the difference with you. So
yeah, we can agree to disagree a little bit on that.
Virginia's sitting at 18 and Miami's at 12. They have the same record, and Miami, of course, beat Notre Dame. I guess South Florida is their second best win. I'm trying to think. NC State's kind of a weird situation because they're not good, but they beat Georgia Tech and they beat Virginia.
Well, that's the ACC, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, if they were 9-2 and they just had another ho-hum win in the ACC, Clemson's a difficult one to bring up because it's a name brand, but that would be it. Like if they beat Clemson. I think that they've earned and are given by the committee a couple spots, 2-3 spots because of Notre Dame.
Yeah, they're not getting enough credit. I will say that.
Yeah, they'd probably be behind Vanderbilt if they didn't beat Notre Dame, and that was a Boston College win.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can, and it's like picking, slicing hairs or whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Like to say they're not getting any credit at all, I just don't agree with that statement. But the last thing I'll say, and this is the most important thing of the night, Mark. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and to everyone that's on the show right now. I just wish everyone a happy holiday, and let's have a great last week of college football before the college football championships.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
All right. I, of course, am going to honor the folks that have been waiting for so long to get on here, but these calls are going to be rather quick, and I apologize. I should do a better job of cutting these first callers off, but I'm a kind soul that let people talk forever. We should go to the 5-minute rule. We're going to institute that. I say we're going to institute it, but I'll forget about that 3 minutes from now, so we won't institute it. But if I remember, we will institute the 5-minute rule for calls. So we're going to institute the 30-second rule, especially for we got a lineup of folks that are always calling. So, but we do appreciate our core callers here. Muley, what's on your mind?
Hey, Mark. Yeah, I'll make it quick. Rob kind of hit on some of the things, but as I think it's very obvious why anyone is upset about Miami being below Notre Dame, and I was on the internet criticizing Notre Dame fans. But then when I was doing my own rankings, I was looking through it and I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't agree with it. Like Notre Dame, when you look at the results, because how I break it down, it's not just your wins and losses, just your overall performances. I would say Miami has by far the best result, which is beating Notre Dame. I think we can all agree on that. But the next 4 results is Notre Dame losing to A&M on muffed on like an extra point that was mishandled. They beat USC and they dominated Pitt. And then you can also argue that blowing out Navy is more impressive than blowing out USF, which is kind of very picky because Navy owns the head-to-head there. I would say this on the same level. And then Miami's second best results blowing out USF, and then their next best results are losses, which is close losses to good teams, Louisville and SMU. Louisville, who has last couple of games, they've been hammered by injuries. Last game, their quarterback and top 2 backs were injured. So I will give them and say, hey, Louisville, that's a top 25 team when healthy. But after USF, what is Miami's best win? FSU, Stanford?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
FSU, NC State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, because when I was comparing both Notre Dame and Miami to BYU, obviously when you compare to each other, you're going to have to put Miami. But if you compare to BYU, I'm looking here and say at least BYU beat some solid teams like Cincinnati or Arizona. Like, I know Cincinnati hasn't played the strongest schedule, but Miami's has that big win. BYU also has a big win against Utah. What's the difference between Notre Dame and Utah? 4 or 5 spots. Whereas Notre Dame, they had 2 losses by combined of 4 points, and like I mentioned, those other results, beating USC, dominating Pitt. And I'll finish off by saying this: while I'm fine with it, if Miami beats Pitt, I don't care what the final score is. If Miami beats Pitt, then you have to put Miami over Notre Dame, because now it's like, oh, now you can't say, oh, they've just been a different team now. They have now shown that they can still compete with good teams. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that, Muley. So that seems like a good assessment.
All right, for sure. Thanks,
I
Mark.
appreciate you being here.
Have
Thanks,
a good
man.
one.
All right. Trey, how you doing tonight?
I'm all right, and I can't wait for food. I'm waiting. They've been cooking all day, and no one's letting me in the kitchen. That's all good, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, Mark, and
Thanks,
everybody.
Trey.
The first thing I would think of when Darrell think about stats in Alabama and Oklahoma, when you turn over the ball 3 or 4 dang times, most likely not, no matter what the stats are, when you turn it over 3 or 4 times, you're
Well, I
not
think
going to
those
win.
are included in the evaluation.
You think it wasn't? Because all I heard was stats.
That's a stat.
Well, turning over the football.
Okay, I'm not going to get into a big
It's
because
a
we
big
don't
issue.
know. Whoa. We don't know, but either it's a legitimate evaluation of the game, therefore it would include turnovers, or it's not a legitimate one because it doesn't include turnovers, and then it's a waste to even discuss it.
Yeah, but you could have many passing, rushing, other
Yes,
turnover the ball.
we get the
That's
point.
gonna affect the
Yes.
poll. Yeah.
It should include turnovers, and if it doesn't, it's a piece of garbage. So
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I would assume that if smart football people or anybody put together an evaluation of what a box score, what the result of a box score should look like, that it would include turnovers, especially when the team that wins the turnover battle wins 85% of the games.
Yeah. That's totally true, Mark. The second thing is, I will not even be mad if Miami, goes above Notre Dame, or is the committee going to risk doing that, jumping over BYU and Alabama to get Notre Dame, or somehow Notre Dame is going to get knocked down? Most likely, if we don't know, because Auburn, Alabama is a very important game, as it is tricky. I think Alabama would jump over Notre Dame because Notre Dame playing Stanford, but they've been good lately. So I think Alabama would jump over Notre Dame, but also Miami will jump over BYU and Notre Dame at that point. I think that's the only reason possible Miami can jump over Notre Dame.
Yeah. So if Miami jumps over Notre Dame, regardless of what happens outside of obviously Notre Dame losing, which knocks them out, Miami jumping Notre Dame would be the logical end result, like the ends justify the means kind of thing. But it would be, there would need to be, and I don't know who would conduct this, some kind of investigation of what the committee's doing, because they would all of a sudden determine what's been true. The result that has been on the book since August 31st suddenly came to light or something. Like, that would be completely asinine, but it would be the right thing to do. So they would need to explain themselves, which of course they couldn't.
They never did. Every time someone asked them a question, it seemed like it's not the right answer to the questions that are being asked, or people not asking the right questions to the committee. And once they do answer any question, it looks like they try to scurve around it. What is the right criteria to make the playoffs? What are you looking at? Conference championships is basically a baseline. Like, okay, you win your conference, you're in. what is the other criteria for the next 7? Is it strength of schedule? It's consistency, who you win and lose. I want to know.
I can answer that, Trey.
Okay.
Since this all started in 2014, the committee does have a list of criteria. I could look it up. It's out there. It's on the internet. They've stated it. It's there. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
Because all of that makes sense. I think 99% of us would agree if we saw the list of what they take into consideration.
Yes. Yes.
Best wins, quality losses, meaning playing a really good team to the wire, all those things. They all make sense. Their problem is that they don't apply them to every team in every situation. They pick and choose what they want to use for any particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the execution or implementation of their criteria is where they're flawed.
Now, I agree with you, Mark, because I was wondering, you should apply it to each team, and it makes it fair. Also, that's why a lot of confusion is what the criteria of what I meant, because what you just said, what I was trying to get to, and I didn't word it right, but I'm thankful for you doing that. Because it don't apply to each team like they should, and it gives them a bunch of confusion. It seems like it's a different criteria for everybody, and I wish it was a baseline for each team. And I wish, and also it could be the team's fault as well for not scheduling more opponents that are better in a non-con. But you can't help your conference if you don't have a very powerful conference like the Group of 5, where the ACC is down and you're slaughtering each other. So what's that going to do? I wish there was a better way to determine those kind of things happening, except for, the conference championship. But I will say this last thing, though, Mark. If you look at Vanderbilt, and me and you talked about this on Tuesday, Utah is basically done. There's nothing they can do. Vanderbilt, I'm looking at Vanderbilt in Michigan. If Vanderbilt loses to Tennessee, they're done. There's no other way. I think Vanderbilt is a great team.
Yeah,
but they lose, they're done. But Michigan, if Vanderbilt loses to Tennessee, will Michigan be able to jump Utah and BYU and again at number 12? Just take out the Ohio State game.
They need to get to 10.
Yes. Yeah. But would they be able to do that?
Well, see, this is where the committee has a luxury concerning Michigan.
Yeah.
They don't have any comparisons to make. They don't have anything that they get caught up in, like the Miami Notre Dame situation.
Yeah.
Or any of these other situations where there's a place where there's a hang up where you say, no, you shouldn't be doing that because that's a contradiction or that's not honoring the results. They can do whatever they want with Michigan. If Michigan beats Ohio State, they can vault them to anywhere below Oklahoma and justify it and say they beat the number 1 team in the country. They're in the Big Ten. They went 10-2. They lost to Oklahoma, so they could put them right below Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I'm not making fun of that. I'm not like saying that they can't do that. I'm just saying, since there are no connecting dots, like USC's out of the way since they lost. If USC would have won, then you got problems, Michigan.
Yeah.
But USC lost last week. That gets them out of the way. And so they could vault Michigan and say they have a better win than any of these teams.
I am kind of surprised that Vanderbilt didn't go over Utah. I think Vanderbilt's a better team than Utah. If that is the case, if they would have done that, I would have even put Michigan over Utah, especially what I've seen last week. That's disappointing. That would actually help Michigan a little bit. And then all you got is BYU in the way, and hopefully Vanderbilt lose. We don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of good matchups. Do you think for Georgia Tech, they got to get in the ACC championship? Is there any other possible scenario for another ACC try to sneak in there besides help? is there anything left? Because Virginia Tech and Virginia is not going to help that. And Georgia Tech got to beat Georgia if they want any shot.
Well, the ACC's best shot at getting 2 teams in is for Miami to make the playoff as an at-large.
True.
They're at 12. They're going to get a decent win against Pitt. That's going to help the resume. And then Miami needs to get to 10. So they need Alabama to lose, Oklahoma to lose, or BYU to get blown out in the conference championship game. They need 2 out of those 3. They elevate to 10, and they're in the playoff.
I want to ask you, 10 is basically a safe line for you, right? Are you saying 10 is basically a safe haven for everybody?
Yeah, it's because there's 12 teams going to be in, and the group of 5 is one of those spots.
Yeah.
And the ACC champion, who's not going to be high enough to get into that top 10, is going to take up 2 spots. So it's going to be the top 10 teams in the country, and it's going to be the ACC champion and the group of 5 champion. That's why
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. This could play out. So hopefully you remember all what I said. So you got Notre Dame. If Alabama beats Auburn, they go up to 9. Notre Dame beat 10. Then you got BYU and plus a group of 5. So that takes 1 spot. So you got that 1 spot left. You got it between Notre Dame, BYU, Utah, and Michigan. Who would get that spot in your mind?
Okay. I kind of lost all that. You're basically saying all those teams are 10-2.
Yes.
Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama, BYU, Miami.
Yeah. No, Miami be in. I think Miami be in. I think they would.
How are they in?
Well, they would jump over Notre Dame. It seems like this week if they take care of business versus Pitt.
Why?
So I wouldn't doubt it,
Why are they jumping over Notre Dame? Which would be fine with me because it should have been done 5 weeks ago. But why would Miami beating Pitt leap all the way up to superseding Notre Dame this week?
I came up with the conclusion about 2 things. Everybody honoring head-to-head, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe they should honor head-to-head with Miami and Notre Dame. And I've been stubborn about that too. But also the rankings are going up trying to honor that. So that's why I draw the conclusion of that.
Okay.
Everybody else is like getting mad about leaving,
they're not
Miami
honoring
out.
that. They're not honoring that.
That's why they're going up. It seems like every week, the last 3 or 4 weeks.
They are. They're trying to correct a mistake. Yes,
Yeah.
they're trying to correct a mistake, and they're making a big deal out of Miami beating bad teams like NC State, Stanford, and Syracuse and inching them up. Sure. But like I said a minute ago, if Miami leapfrogs Notre Dame, that is justification. It's justified. It's the way things should be. I would have no issue with it. I would applaud it, but I would say there needs to be a serious investigation of this committee and what they're doing because
yes,
that result's already in the books. It should already be taken into consideration. It's already Miami should have already been ranked ahead of Notre Dame. So why would we think that the committee would suddenly value a win that they have not valued since the first week they released rankings, especially since most likely Miami's win this weekend against Pitt is not going to be nearly as impressive as Notre Dame's, most likely.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame really showed their muscle, but can Miami match it?
Yeah.
If they match it, I'm sure there's no problem.
Yeah.
I have no problem Miami skipping Notre Dame. It's the problem they waited this long and they keep climbing up the rankings. And I'm like, Notre Dame is better at this point. And even though it's head to head, I will say it again. I think Notre Dame is better than Miami. If they played again, I'm guaranteed Notre Dame will beat them.
Okay. Trey, can I take one? Let me take one word out of your vocabulary.
Okay.
Of course, you can do whatever you want. You're a grown man. So this is just a suggestion. Take the word guarantee out of your vocabulary because every time I've heard you guarantee something, it hasn't happened. So
I wish you
it's
did.
not a guarantee that Notre Dame
I
would
wish
beat
it did, Mark.
Miami if they played again.
I wish it did, Mark. I really go. Trust me, I've watched plenty of football. You know me pretty good since I've been
So
here.
you
No.
have every right in the world, just like I stated eons ago, earlier in the show. You have every right in the world to say, based on your opinion, you think Notre Dame's a better team than Miami. But they did play. Notre Dame won the game, or Miami won the game. Therefore, they should be given credit and just due for that. And if they played again, the reality is none of us know who would win the game.
I would say that is their best game they won this year.
Yes.
It's versus Notre Dame.
Yes. Okay.
Clearly.
All right, Trey.
But
You have a happy Thanksgiving. And we will see you soon.
Thank you. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Okay. We're going on and on about things repeatedly. All right. And we're 29 minutes over, which I guess means we're going to do 30 minutes tomorrow night. Okay. Michael's here. This will be our last call since these are the callers that have been here forever. So, Tom, I apologize, but we're 30 minutes over. Michael, what's going on?
I'll keep it short and sweet, Mark. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I hope you eat stuff full of turkey tomorrow. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'll talk more. I got a feeling the Purdue game, Purdue's going to lose, but I got a feeling it might not be as bad as it was last year. But we'll talk about
I've got a big feeling it's not going to be as bad. It was 66-0. I guarantee I'm going to use a word that Trey uses all the time. I'm going to guarantee, even though I shouldn't do that, guarantee it's not going to be as bad. It might be 63-0 or 56-0, but it's not going to be 66-0.
Some people think it might be in the 70s, but I digress. Anyway, one thing, and we can talk about this Friday night, is coaches that might be fired after the season, and talk about the new coaches has recently been hired and stuff like that. But we can do that on Friday night, since you probably got a lot of stuff you got to get ready for tomorrow.
Who else is going to get fired? Florida State is telling us that Mike Norvell is not going to get fired, and Wisconsin says that Luke Fickell is not going to get fired. Who else could get fired? Anybody in the chat? Who else could get fired? Could Minnesota dump PJ Fleck? Matt Rule at Nebraska. I think next year is going to be his year, but I guess it's possible.
Mm-hmm. And also, we'll talk about the coaching changes that's happened in the last couple of days with the coaches going to different schools and stuff like that. Mark, I am done. Enjoy.
Thank you, Michael.
No show tomorrow, right?
I
better not be a show. You better not be at the show. Be spending time with your family tomorrow night.
All right, Michael.
All right, take care. Enjoy your day tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. I have no family within 1,000 miles of me. So my daughter's in Vegas, my son's in Connecticut, and we will all be together for Christmas. But I am spending Thanksgiving with my friends. So, we've got a lot of coaches that got fired, didn't we? Penn State, UCLA, Oklahoma State, Cal, Auburn, LSU, Florida, Virginia Tech obviously filled its spot, but that's 8 jobs open. Anybody else I'm missing in the power conferences? It's usually about 8 to 12, and we're at 8 already. Did I miss somebody? I think that's it. Shane Beamer, South Carolina. I don't think so. I think he will get another year as well. All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I am not going to set a time. I'm not going to guarantee it, but don't be surprised if I show up sometime on a Thanksgiving night with all of you. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoyed the day. Whatever is the best possible Thanksgiving for you, whether that's eating the turkey and all the fixings, or that's McDonald's, whatever that is for you, I hope you enjoy it. Hope your day is filled with fun and laughter and football, or again, whatever you want it to be. If it is difficult for you to find something to be thankful for, I understand. Believe me, I understand, not because I don't have a ton to be thankful for. I've got so much to be thankful for, but I know that there are people out there that are struggling, whether that's physically, financially, relationally, or otherwise. But the road to recovery and the road to a truly content life is to be thankful. So I would suggest for you, this is my bit of advice, to find something to be thankful for, not just on this Thanksgiving holiday, but every day that you wake up. Even if all you do is get out of bed, be thankful, show some gratitude, and that will be one of the points that you can hang on to and hold on to that will give you great inspiration, and it will start to open up your mind and your heart to truly all the great things in your life that you have to be thankful for, and it will accumulate. So again, I could preach on God, Jesus Christ, and the real source of a fulfilling life, but let's just start with that. Be grateful, be thankful, and express that thankfulness. Grab somebody that you know in your life, whether it can be in person or somebody that you can only connect with on the phone or over social media, and just thank them for being a fine person, for helping you, for just being close, for being available for a conversation, whatever it is, whoever they are in your life. Be thankful for the people in your life. And even if somebody gives you a challenge in life, even if they are not the best people to be around, they have done you wrong at some point. Find something of a redeeming quality and thank them. And again, an attitude of gratitude. Start your day tomorrow, and let's start right now. And I'm talking to myself as well, because we all go through the good times and the bad times, and the good days and the bad days. And sometimes it seems like things are going against us and aren't going in the direction that we would like. Just de-emphasize, don't ignore. You have to deal with your issues and your problems, but de-emphasize yourself, de-emphasize your problems and issues, and give more attention to what you should be grateful for. And those things are going to elevate in your life. Those things are going to become more of your focus and attention, and you're going to see your attitude and your energy rise. So we appreciate you, and I am going to take my own advice right this second, and I'm going to say thank you, a true thank you to Doreen. Doreen, thank you so much for joining us here at the Voice of College Football. Doreen has been a godsend, and you can join Doreen and Minnie on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And Doreen has been such a help, a support, and inspiration for me personally, for the network for sure, but way more than that for me personally. Doreen has been a great, great inspiration, and she is just a light in this world, is the best way I can think of right this second to explain and describe Doreen. She is a true light in this world. So Doreen, thank you for all that you do and for who you are. Chris, thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting to the Voice of College Football, arguably as much or more than anybody ever. That's what I'm thankful for Chris. For Michael, thank you for the phone call tonight and for all the many phone calls. We appreciate you, Michael. Oh my goodness. Rob, thank you so much. Rob has engaged us in so many thoughtful conversations and fun football talk over the last few years. Rob, thank you for being here. You're a first-class individual. You're a great Notre Dame fan, a great college football fan. You're a great supporter of our show. And Rob with a super chat tonight that I so much appreciate. And I will not be able to get to everyone, of course, but Tukey G's here. Tukey G, probably the guy that is the first in the chat more often than anybody else. So Tukey G, thank you so much for your support. I am thankful for just a slew of you. I have not seen much, if not just recently, Roll Tide K4U, but Roll Tide K4U has posted some very nice encouragement and support and encouraging people to like the videos and share the videos. So thank you so much for that. That is very kind of you. And so once again, as I scroll through the chat, Jim has been amazing. Jim is here supporting me and just, again, encouraging people to watch the shows and to be supportive. So thank you for that. I have never seen, and I apologize if I should have seen you before, but I've never seen Small Time 3. Never seen you in my life, but I am thankful that you are either a new viewer or a new commenter, or maybe this is the first time I've seen your comments, but thank you for being here. And of course, I'm going to leave so many people out that are not here tonight, but we've got 1989M, and we've got a Hawkeye fan here. So thank you so much for all your support, your loyalty here at the Voice of College Football. And I do intend on being here at some point on Thanksgiving night, because I expect to be coming home at, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, something in that range. I will probably jump on at that point, but I'm not going to guarantee it. I will be here on Friday night, I believe. And we've got a lot of important games on Friday. I love Friday after Thanksgiving for football. I don't care if the games are meaningless, that all the teams suck, they've got losing records. I don't care. I always loved Arkansas LSU playing on the Friday after Thanksgiving. That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's Arkansas, Missouri. I love that Nebraska and Iowa play at noon on Fox on Friday. Love it. Love the Black Friday games, because when you spread out the college football weekend, that means I get to see more games. So I don't have to sit there and be like, I want to see 6 games at the same time and I can't watch them all. No, they get spread out Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I love this weekend. Rivalry weekend. I'm going to watch as much football as I possibly can. And thank you so much for the contribution coming in from, oh man, if I can spit this name out, the Elephant in the Room podcast 9045. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Mr. Alabama fan. Mark, let's hope for chaos. I would love to see chaos. If there's anything I love to do in college football besides watch it, first and foremost, it's just watch it. It's trying to figure out all sorts of different situations and scenarios. So I enjoy that. I have not been able to do that as much this season as I have in the past. And I do apologize to all of you that watch the show and have watched on a regular basis. Some of you new people that have only watched, let's say, the last year and a half, you're not going to notice a difference, but there is a clear difference over the amount of content and the quality of the content over the last, let's say, year and a half, as opposed to what we did before. But that's just a fact of life, that my focus has had to go elsewhere. All right. Appreciate you being here. And we will see you probably on Thursday night at some point. If not, enjoy the football on Thursday and Friday. We'll see you on Friday here at the Voice of College Football.